Hello everyone, welcome back to I Create For You. I'm going to be back in the Haunted Presidents book. I decided I'm just going to go for it, whether they're long or short. Okay, we had skipped Thomas Jefferson because it was a long one, but we're going to go through with it, and at the end I'm going to sketch him. And also I have some fun facts I found while looking for an image of him to sketch from. Now, hopefully my voice holds out. For some reason, it's going in and out today. Thomas Jefferson, the third president from 1801 to 1809. The sound of piano music is heard coming from the yellow oval room on the second floor of the White House. The medley of tunes seems to have been chosen for its feeling of serene reflection. The rendition is smooth and faultless, as though the pianist is playing old familiar favorites. The notes are played softly without dramatic flourishes, as if the pianist is playing only for his own enjoyment, not performing for an audience. The music is otherworldly in every sense. The piano and musician are but faintly shimmering, almost transparent images, while an abrupt or noisy entrance into the room will pull a sudden end to the playing. A quite unobtrusive entry will give the listener a few more moments of pleasure before the music, the piano, and its player all fade away. The ghostly piano player is the shade of third President Thomas Jefferson, the first president to occupy the White House for 8 years. He thoroughly enjoyed his 2 terms in the executive mansion. His predecessor, John Adams, had moved into the still unfinished house on November 1st, 1800, and within a week had lost the bitterly contested election to Jefferson. Adams spent but 1 winter in the White House and was miserable doing so. No wonder Adams's ghost has never appeared there, just as it's understandable that Jefferson's phantom visits the scene of many of his life's triumphs. White House living was very much to Jefferson's taste. He loved playing host to the famous and talented in the tradition of the Parisian salons he so admired during his diplomatic missions to France. Scientists, artists, and philosophers graced Jefferson's White House dinners and receptions, along with the usual complement of political leaders. Jefferson liked to entertain in a less formal style than the favored by Washington and continued by Adams. He often greeted guests in a robe with slippers on his feet, and so his ghost appears in that attire at the piano in the Oval Room. Some people claim to have heard him playing a violin in the White House. Jefferson's ghost also has been seen in several rooms in his plantation home, Monticello, as well as his rural hideaway at Poplar Forest. In Monticello, the spirits of both Jefferson and his wife Martha are said to preside, barely visible at the dining table. Thomas had married the 23-year-old widow, Martha Wales Skelton, in 1772. He had already begun building the mansion in Monticello. Some believe that Martha influenced the decorating of that home that Thomas designed. By all accounts, theirs was a happy marriage, a fact reflected in the relaxed smiles said to grace their dining table manifestations. The 6-foot-tall Jefferson retained a youthful, slim build all his life, despite his great enjoyment of food and reputation as a gourmet and wine connoisseur. His neighbors said that he set a good table, referring both to quality and quantity of food served. The wine and conversation sparkled, reported one guest, and so the dining room manifestation of Jefferson is the most radiantly happy. His lovely wife at his side, enjoying the social and culinary pleasures of dinner with friends. This image of domestic bliss did not last long in Jefferson's life. His wife died in childbirth at age of 33. Of their 6 children, only 2, Martha and Maria, survived infancy. It is alleged that a wailing infant can be heard sometimes on the 2nd floor where the nursery was located. Few have heard these ghostly babies, however, because the 2nd floor is off limits to visitors. It is reached by claustrophobically narrow stairs hidden in the walls because Jefferson thought that grand open staircases were a waste of space and so did not provide them in his plans. An older, more somber version of Jefferson's spirit is thought to appear on rare occasions in Monticello's entrance hall, where the sage of Monticello would welcome important guests. This room is decorated with portraits of historic figures whom Jefferson admired. He hung his own picture among those of his heroes. Some claim that in his portrait, Jefferson's eyes move and focus on any famous person who tours his home. Supposedly, Jefferson's shade appears in the entrance hall, carefully examining the Native American artifacts that decorate the walls. These handicrafts and works of art were sent to Jefferson by the famous explorers Meriwether Lewis and William Clark, whose monumental expedition had been commissioned by the president. The Native American pieces were obtained in the traditional exchange of gifts accompanying the signing of treaties. A different aspect of Jefferson's personality is embodied in the ghostly image said to manifest in the great man's own bedroom suite. While Jefferson clearly enjoyed entertaining visitors to his home, he also valued his time alone. His private suite of rooms included his bedroom, a solarium, and a cabinet, a combination library, office, and sitting room. He had 6,700 books at Monticello. Geez, and I thought I had a lot. Many in Greek or Latin. Within the suite of interconnected rooms, he enjoyed solitude for reading, writing, and undisturbed thinking. This very private environment is thought to be haunted by the hazy, faintly shimmering spirit of Jefferson, seated at his desk, wearing his reading glasses. He occupies a swivel chair of his own invention. Phantoms of his beloved mockingbirds flutter about in large cages nearby. Some of Monticello's staff who are willing to admit anonymously to having glimpsed the phantom of the great man allege that his spirit can be seen frowning over his plantation account books. The deep frown certainly would be consistent with a living man, for Jefferson dealt with money troubles all of his adult life. Although Jefferson was rich in land, he was usually short of cash. His father-in-law, John Wales, died deeply in debt, part of which Jefferson had to assume. During the Revolution, British General Lord Charles Cornwallis literally went out of his way to pillage Jefferson's plantation, burning crops and slaughtering animals. Jefferson was proud of leaving public service poorer than when he entered it. His expenses incurred as envoy to Paris were reimbursed with worthless paper currency afterward. While in the White House, he used his own funds to supplement an official entertainment budget he felt to be woefully inadequate. He never really learned to manage his own money, lived with debt all his life, spent lavishly on books and wine, and died bankrupt. His personal experiences with overhanging debt gave him a negative view on public debt. "I sincerely believe," he wrote, "that banking establishments are more dangerous than standing armies, and that the principle of spending to be paid by prosperity under the name of funding is but swindling futurity on a large scale." Perhaps Jefferson's long and unsuccessful struggle to manage his money helps to explain the man's strong, conflicting attitudes and policies concerning slavery. All his life, Jefferson publicly advocated abolition of the evil institution. In the meantime, he owned about 200 slaves, 15 of whom worked in his home. In his lifetime, he freed only 7 slaves, 6 of whom are believed by some experts to be his own children, born to his slave, Sally Hemings. The 7th freed slave was Sally's brother James, which brings us to another ghost story. Allegedly, yet another manifestation of Jefferson's spirit appears at Poplar Forest, and this time Jefferson's shade is in company with the spirit of Sally Hemings. Poplar Forest was Jefferson's vacation retreat, a private hideaway located about 90 miles southwest of Monticello. Like Monticello, Poplar Forest was designed by Jefferson himself, reflecting a lifetime passion for architecture. He began visiting Poplar Forest in 1809 at the age of 66. His visits lasted for between 2 and 4 weeks at a time. Poplar Forest fulfilled Jefferson's need for privacy, something that was increasingly rare at Monticello. A seemingly endless parade of visitors called at Monticello, all eager to meet the greatest surviving leader of the Revolution and, incidentally, enjoy his vastly renowned hospitality. The drain on his household resources and his time were considerable. Ever eager to meeting interesting people and enjoying stimulating conversations, Jefferson nonetheless desired peace and quiet with his surviving daughter, Martha, and his 12 grandchildren. Relatively remote and surrounded by 4,812 acres of private land, much of it heavily forested, Poplar Forest was literally a hideaway. Few people outside the family even knew about Poplar Forest in Jefferson's lifetime. Its relationship to the third president was almost forgotten until a group of patriots formed a nonprofit foundation to rescue the house from oblivion in 1983. The unique architecture of Poplar Forest contributes to the romantic mystery of its alleged ghosts. The outer walls form a large octagon, one of Jefferson's favorite geometrical shapes. The center room is square, some 20 feet on each side, and lit by a 16-foot-long skylight. The rooms surrounding this central room are partial octagons. The central room, lit at night by the moonlight flickering spectral candles, is the scene of the appearance of the slightly phosphorescent forms of Jefferson and Sally Hemings. The two ghosts are said to be seated near one another in a relaxed and tranquil domestic scene of intimacy. Sally's story is as surprising and controversial today as it was during her lifetime. Sally, whose given name was Sarah, was born to a slave whose own father was an English sea captain. Sally's father is believed to be John Wales, Jefferson's own father-in-law. She was described by another one of Jefferson's slaves as mighty, near white, very handsome, with long, straight hair. Jefferson's political enemies accused him of keeping Sally as a concubine. Jefferson made no comment on this because it was his policy never to offer any public response to personal attacks. Recent DNA tests show that a male in the Jefferson line was the father of Sally's 6 children. Additional evidence suggests that Thomas Jefferson himself is the father. It is thought that a relationship between Jefferson and Sally began in Paris in 1787. Jefferson was on a diplomatic mission to France. Sally, then aged 14, was brought to France as a companion servant to Thomas's 9-year-old daughter, Mary. Sally's brother James also came to Paris as a cook and coachman. Soon after his arrival, James told Jefferson that they needed to discuss his salary. James had learned that France had outlawed slavery. As long as Sally and he were in France, they were free. James was willing to stay with Jefferson, working for payment. The record shows that James and Sally each received salaries while in France. When Jefferson returned to America, James stayed behind in Paris. Why did Sally, who must have known she would be returning into slavery, go back with him? Neither Jefferson nor Sally wrote any thoughts on the relationship, so we don't know for certain how they saw it. Following Jefferson's death, his daughter Martha gave Sally her time, a kind of formal freedom. This may have been because Jefferson's huge debts would have prevented his heirs from disposing of property against which his lenders had liens. It is known that 3 of Sally's children lived in white society. That is, they passed for white and were genetically 7/8 white. Did Jefferson maintain Poplar Forest to live more openly with his second family? We'll never know for sure, but the phantoms of Thomas and Sally there seem to illustrate the depth of their relationship. Ooh, that's interesting. A lot of skeletons in that guy's closet. Okay. As I said, I was looking for an image to try to sketch, which was that one. And I came across this. This is kind of creepy. Thomas Jefferson's actual hair. Okay, and I'm gonna read what came with that. Thomas Jefferson's hair cuttings were taken on Jefferson's deathbed as a keepsakes by his only surviving daughter, Martha Jefferson Randolph, and other family members. 3 samples came to the Library of Congress in clearly identified envelopes with the papers of Jefferson. Martha wrote on one envelope, "My dear father, Thomas Jefferson." The hair samples are cuttings without follicles, and therefore are useless for DNA studies. Only the Thomas Jefferson Memorial Foundation is known to have custody of additional cuttings of Jefferson's hair. What in the world? Well, maybe I could freak out my kids. What do you think? See, I have long black hair, so like putting it in little shadow boxes, and maybe not. Okay, move on. Okay, I'm gonna try to sketch Mr. Thomas Jefferson. Man, buddy, you really had a story to tell, didn't you? See, I don't really read these stories beforehand, and so I'm getting the what do I want to call it? The facts and I can't even talk. He just really kind of boggled my mind, and I never would have thought a president would do some of the things that he has done. I mean, like cheat on his wife and with a slave, and then seem to not like the idea of slavery and be so hypocritical. And then father children with her. I mean that I feel for his wife, because she seemed to be struggling with having children survive during birth. So I'm not too keen on his whole cheating aspect and fathering other children. That's just fathering other children with a child herself. I wonder when exactly that whole affair came about. But yeah, that just doesn't sit well with me. I'm not a fan of that whole kind of that crap, that whole cheating crap, and ugh. I can't imagine. I wonder if she actually knew. I mean, it probably was hard not to, but I'm actually wondering what he did as president so much so that he had to be off at Poplar Forest so often making kids. You know what I'm saying? I mean, like what the heck? It's just wrong. That's just my opinion. I mean, I'm learning something new reading this book. It's not just about the ghostly presence. It's actually some really disturbing facts that they tell us about their choices that these guys make. I'm hoping you can see this okay. I'm just having a hard time with that whole concept. I didn't see any pictures of his Sally, Sarah, whatever her name may be. So I do not know exactly what she looks like, or I would have printed out a picture of her, since she seemed to be a big part of his story. I don't know. It's just my opinion. I just don't. That kind of thing is just not my. I just can't even talk about it. It's just not right. I'm so glad that time has changed in that respect, that women don't have to put up with that crap. Get out while you can. Don't deal with that stuff. Stuff. Oh, here we go with the mouth again. I always have trouble with the mouths. We'll see what we can do here. Doing some of his clothes here. Boy, these guys really wore these funky outfits, you know, with the ruffles and the high collars, and I believe the women had those I don't know what they're called, the things that are underneath their dresses, those how can I put it? They are like it's not the petticoats. It was actually like, it would go on their waist, but it would be wire that would make the dress hoops stand out. That must have been so horrible to have to get dressed like that all the time. Don't really have a lot of closet space for that. I'm wondering if they just use one per dress, for every dress, and then to be like cinched into it. You know how they always had the corsets? Ugh. I can't imagine that. That had to be so uncomfortable all the time, having to wear those. I mean, some of those dresses were really extravagant, but my God, you got dressed up and in it, and then we're in it for so long. That had to be so uncomfortable for so long. And it couldn't have been a healthy thing to do. But like I said, those dresses are kind of pretty. It's not really good. His eyes kind of suck. I'm going to be honest there. Little sucky eyeballs. Well, he had bad eyes because they were wandering eyes. Here I am again getting on that subject. Get myself all worked up over that. Anywho, there is Thomas Jefferson, our third president, with a really bad story behind him. Thank you for coming along and watching me sketch this, our third president, and read a little bit about his presidency and his shortcomings, as I would call them. But anyway, I hope you liked it. Sorry it was a long one. This is a long one. Give me a thumbs up, please. I need all you guys' support, and thank you for all the ones who do watch my videos and put up with my shenanigans when I'm talking about these stories. And anyway, subscribe if you haven't. I got lots more to do, and hopefully I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye for now. Thanks for stopping by.